Welcome back, everyone. This is For Azeroth, the podcast all about Warcraft, coming back after a travel slash Nerdtacular slash Utah break. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. I'm sitting here with Jocelyn Moffett. Welcome back, Joce.
Thank you, Garrett. It's actually really funny because we're coming back doing a show just to tell you we're leaving again.
Yeah, pretty much. So you're gone next week, right?
Yep. And you're gone the week after.
I'm gone the week after. Yeah,
this is the only phase for until basically August.
Yep, it's timing. Timing is not working out too well. All of the other shows should not have a break, but this show is just you and I. There's no Dills, there's no Kyle to help fill the gap when one of us disappears. So this is the show that will be being hit the hardest. That and Embrace the Spoilers, which has successfully funded, so it is coming back. But if you've read through the Kickstarter, you'll know that we don't plan to actually start that sucker until week 3 of the new season of Game of Thrones because of our travel. So there's that. Yeah, and then chat room was like, well, what about TOS progression? That too, that's a problem. All of our progression has been problematic. I have been only in LFR, where, Jocelyn, I still have not received a single piece of gear from the new raid between 2 tunes.
Yeah, I got one piece of gear. I got my tier gloves, I think, the first week, and I haven't gotten anything else since. It's just been AP. And, oh, no, wait, that's a lie. Technically, I did get a chess piece last night, which was not an upgrade for me because I have my tier 19 set
piece bonus.
Yeah, so it wasn't worth the 10 eye level upgrade. So I tried to give it to our tank, who was like, oh my god, that piece is so good for me. And I was like, okay, here. And then Warcraft was like, no, you can't do that. Technically, it's an eye level upgrade. I was like, but,
No, it's so obnoxious. Well,
yeah,
if it's a tier
I hate that system so much.
So is the chess piece you got a tier set?
No.
Oh, well, that was... Never mind.
Because otherwise it would have given me my tier 22 piece, which would have been better.
Oh, snap. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking maybe it was on another tune or something. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, yeah, then there's just nothing... That's just a waste. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. I disenchanted it. Like, it was such a waste.
Sad day.
And not to mention, like, disenchanting anything in Legion feels like just stupid because there's so many purple pieces. If it was a blue piece, it would have been better because, like, I have the, I guess, the class hall upgrade. Plus, there's also the chance for things to always they have a chance to roll epic. So I don't think I've seen a blue piece of gear since I killed all the rares. Like... Everything's either a green drop or a purple, like, reward.
So you're having issue with your lower-end enchanting mats, is what you're telling me.
You can't find any of the low-end... Like, the only way I get them is through the Blood of Sargeras vendor.
Well, what else are you going to do with those?
But yeah, so, like, I disenchant this piece of gear, and it is literally a waste because I have, like, 500 Chaos Crystals. Like...
I feel like there's an argument for maybe holding on to it for when you get your tier 24 piece, and maybe one of those 4 pieces isn't a chest, so then the chest is an upgrade because it has nothing. Who cares about your tier 19 set piece at this point?
Yes.
I also, and then also there's legendaries. I always hold on to like a gear in case I find a better legendary, and one of the legendaries I was using frees up a slot.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I probably could have, but still, it wasn't that great because the secondary stats didn't line up for what I needed either. So, if it had crit on it, then I would have equipped it for sure, but
yeah,
it didn't,
yeah. Well, that were all my attempts at like giving you like positive reasons to keep it. Now I'm just going to translate meanly for everyone at home. If you didn't notice exactly what Jocelyn just said, she was basically complaining that her gear is too good.
Kind of.
First world WoW problems.
Yeah.
There we go. There's something there.
But yeah, I mean, like, so in terms of progression, we've killed 6 of 9, but this has been such a crappy time for us as a raid because everyone is moving or on vacation or just can't come for whatever reason. Like, I mean, we've had people going to job interviews. We've had just all kinds of stuff. We've only had one raid night, I think, so far, and we raid twice a week. We've only had one raid night where like everyone was there.
It's I mean, it happens.
It's crazy.
There's an ebb and flow to life, which means there's an ebb and flow
I know,
to
but
raids.
it's like it's the beginning of summer. Everyone's like, "Woohoo, summer, vacation time, Nerdtacular, let's go!"
Exactly.
And yeah, we're just like, "Oh, but raid."
Yeah. No, I mean, these are issues that come up in every raid I've ever had. Yeah, you either make it out the other end or it's the death of the raid. I think I'm fairly certain we will make it out the other end. We just gotta. Make it
I think
August.
we're totally gonna be fine. It's just that like it was just a really crappy time for raid content to release, at least for us, and so we're not even finished normal yet, which makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit because I was like kind of hoping / planning for us to just blow through it in the first week, and then that didn't happen. We got hung up on Maiden, and which is apparently the boss that kind of everyone is getting hung up on.
She's
So
patchwork-esque. She's pretty, seems like a pretty steep DPS check. It's just the longer that fight goes on, the higher the chances of instant death.
So yeah, we did get caught up on her, and we only had one night of, I guess, attempts on her, I think. So I can kind of see how, yeah, I don't want it to be so easy that we just boom clear it, but at the same time, like, damn it, why didn't we just clear it?
Yeah.
So we still have Maiden, still have the Avatar, and we still have Kill Jaden to get down, but I'm ready to get on to heroics and yeah, just move past normal, but I'm sure we'll still clear normal for a while. It's just because we did so well in the race through Nighthold in our guild. We came, I think, either third or fourth, I can't remember, but we were like, we finished the same night as another team. So I can't remember if they just beat us or we just beat them, but one way or another, we came either third or fourth out of all of AIE, which for a brand new raid team felt really freaking good. And so I was like, oh my God, we did so well. We were so far behind them. We didn't even start our raid team until Nighthold released. So this is amazing. And then I was like, we're just going to kick ass in Tomb of Sargeras. And yeah, we're not doing that because of all the people that we're missing. Like, we're missing our main tank because he's moving. And then like I'm here and then leaving, and then Garrett's here, but then leaving, and so
yeah, I didn't even
brutal.
And I didn't even make it last week. You know, half because of travel on like Tuesday and whatnot. I don't think.
Well, and it was the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
actually, literally the 4th of July, not the 4th of July weekend. It was the 4th of July. So
yeah. So I'll be raiding this week, but then I'll be gone for a little while. So not that this is probably all that interesting unless you're on a raid, but whatever the case is, I'm sure a lot of other raid groups.
Well, it's what we're doing
with,
in WoW. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of other raid groups are going through. It's summer, and it's not even one of those things like you can point to and be like, oh, this is an issue we're experiencing that's different than what I had when I was raiding back in Lich King because of age differences. It's not. Summer is just insane for everyone. Most people take breaks or have changes in their lives. We do not move in Florida because it's hot as hell. It's not a moving month for us, but I get it. Like, there's usually a lot of traveling going on. It's just difficult to get everything to kind of sync up. I mean, that's raids at the end of the day, right? It's professional cat herding behind a keyboard and mouse. So,
and I mean, I really do have to get away. It's my first time going on vacation with like no contact, no phones, like just having a good time away that is not tied to any kind of work, like cons or conferences or any of that kind of stuff. Like, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to record any podcasts. Like, I'm going away for 7 days.
well, enjoy
Like,
it.
I legit don't remember the last time that I took a vacation. Like, it's been like at least 5 years. So I'm really excited. It was probably actually my last like vacation was probably when I went to Europe in 2011. So
Wow. All right. Well, I've never
I'm
been to
really
Europe,
looking forward to it.
Well, enjoy it. I'm lucky enough
rip
to
raid progression.
I'm lucky enough to have a free bedroom to go crash in the Keys every July. So I've been doing that pretty much my entire life. And if that went away, I'd probably kill somebody I work with at some point every year. So
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm like your furthest away co-host. Oh no, wait, that might be Kyle. Ooh.
Well, unfortunately, Dills is the shortest distance. Sorry, Dills.
Rip Dills.
If I'm ever not able to crash in Key West for free for 1 week out of every year, I might be coming for you just to let out some rage. But whatever the case is, yeah. No, I'm excited to get back on the raid, and I've really missed it. I like, so what I've raided, I want to say I showed up for like 3 nights for Tomb of Sargeras, and it really hits everything I ever hoped it would be. It is so up my alley in terms of what I enjoy from Warcraft that I was so into it, so ready to just, I'm gonna show up 2 nights a week finally, like multiple weeks in a row. And like you said, all that stuff came up, so I'm really missing it. It's not like we've been, if this happened at the end of the Nighthold grind, it would have been fine, like no big deal. But it's happening right at the beginning of a fresh new raid, so I'm sitting here being like, damn it, I just want a raid. So I kept playing on the side, trying to get more gear so that when I do show up this week, I am doing better numbers. But that didn't happen. I've gotten absolutely nothing. I'm going to be doing exactly the same amount of damage that I was doing before. But I did figure out, Jocelyn, how to feel like a total DPS badass, and that is to run LFR on Mondays. It was number 2 today, just before the show. Number
That's
2 on
awesome.
the DPS meters. Underneath, of course, a Warlock. Always Warlocks.
Always Warlocks.
Always Warlocks. Yep.
Well, speaking of Tomb of Sargeras progression, I don't know if you've been following it, Garrett, but because this seems to be something that's I've been more interested in as I've become a little bit more serious when it comes to raiding. But the race for World First is going on right now, and it seems really, really fast this time. There's 2 guilds as of last night, Method and Exorcist, who are 8 of 9, so they both downed Fallen Avatar. They're working on Kil'jaeden. Method was slightly ahead and had a few more hours of like practice on Kil'jaeden. It seems like both teams seem to be complaining that Kil'jaeden almost feels like they didn't even test it on Mythic difficulty, because there's a whole bunch of like glitches and totally insane one-shot mechanics and all kinds of crazy stuff going on in Kil'jaeden that just seems like it shouldn't be there, like it's not working properly. So both guilds seem to really be complaining about that. And there's 30 or so other guilds that are 7 of 9 right now. And I don't know, it seems to me like this is really, really fast. Have I just been like totally out of the loop, or?
I mean, I've never followed these things all that closely. It's always been when the announcement comes out that someone got World First. That's about it. I'm like, oh, cool. You know, that guild did that thing. And that's as far as it goes for me. It's never been something I've been that interested in. So I don't know. I will tell you this, it has always felt like it's very fast. But
I feel like, and I can't remember now, and if it was Emerald Nightmare or if it was Nighthold, but I feel like one of the 2 of them was like 3 to 4 weeks. Like I felt like it was really long. Like I went to go do the show notes one week and they were like halfway done. And then I went to go do the show notes the next week and I was like, oh, I wonder who got World First. Oh, it's still not over? Whereas now I'm like, they only have 1 boss left and Mythic has been out for like a week? Really? It just seems like super crazy fast.
yeah, I don't know. I'm even trying to like pull up like if there's like a website with timelines and stuff, and the first thing that popped up is SK Gaming, and it only goes back to 2008. So, yeah, hey listeners out there, if you have a resource for this type of thing, I'd love to know what it is. So tweet at
Well, I
Paz
just
Podcast
follow-
or email us.
Yeah, I just follow Method's website. They have method.gg/raid progress, and then so they post whenever anything new happens. So, but yeah, and so that's how I knew that there were the 2 guilds who were like, this is really dumb, and we feel like we're beta testers.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm talking about. I want to see past World First, like going back.
Oh,
through
I
all
see,
of
like
the,
how fast it took to
Yeah.
complete things.
Yeah, so I can cross-reference that with a patch date. It's like, well, the raid came out this date, and they downloaded on this date, and then I could actually give you an informed answer, Jocelyn. Other than, well, it always feels really fast because I suck.
Well, okay, so wait, let's see. So we got, when did we actually get the patch? Was it the 20th or the 27th?
Do you want the
27th,
patch or the date that the raid opened?
Oh, sorry, yeah, date that the raid opened.
I mean, it was, what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, so it was the 20th, the raid opened on normal and heroic. So the 27th when Mythic opened. So I guess it's been almost 2 weeks. So I guess that's not that bad. So, I thought it had only been 1 week, and I was like, WTF, how did they clear 8 of 9 bosses in 1 week? That's a little bit too fast.
Yeah, no, if Mythic was the 27th, yeah, that'd put us at 2 weeks. 2 weeks tomorrow, so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's not too bad.
Seems right, but it also seems like, to me, it seems like we chewed through what we did relatively quickly. So, and we're decently geared, but it's not like we were Mythic ratings, so amp that up to a professional team that this is what they do. They are probably fully geared in Mythic from the previous raid. I can see that. I can absolutely see that. I mean, these are literally the best raiders in the world.
That is true.
So, it doesn't surprise me at all. What is surprising me, and even though I'm not seeking it out, are the amount of 7.3 spoilers that have been just gracing my eyeballs. And again, not seeking it out. I'm not clicking on the links. I'm not going deep into it. But the images I have seen of certain characters that Jocelyn and I care quite a bit about, that we haven't really heard much from since, I don't know, Beyond the Dark Portal, have me very excited.
You sounded very excited. Like your voice was just like starting to hitch in your throat.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, Turalyon and Illyria, there's models of them, and they're all over the place, and it's hard not to see them if you follow anyone who plays World of Warcraft on Twitter or social media of your choice.
I've actually managed to not see images of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I feel like I see the Illyria model at least once a day. Did you just stop following, Wowhead and MMO Champion and everyone else? You're still following Method for crying out loud.
I didn't stop. It's just that I haven't found so I usually consume Twitter exclusively on my phone. And since I switched to an Android, I haven't found an app that I like as much as I like Tweetbot. So I find it really cluttered, I guess. Because I used, I can't remember the name of it now. Anyways, I used one, I didn't like it. I used another one, I didn't like it. Now I've moved to just the straight up Twitter app because it lets me have group DMs, which none of the other ones do. And that was really important when I was down in Utah. But the Twitter app has all the promoted crap. It has all the in case you missed it. And I'm like, I didn't miss it, Twitter. I've already read this like 18 times. Stop. So I haven't been on Twitter as much as I used to be because I haven't found an app that I like to use to consume it. And when I'm sitting in front of my computer, I'm usually doing other things. So
fair enough.
So I've just literally missed it. And when I was pulling together the notes last night, I was like, oh yeah, I saw people tweeting about all these 7.3 details. I should take a look at Wowhead. And then I just saw the title of one of the articles saying data mined Turalyon and Illyria models, and I was like, nope, not clicking that one. So I've actually not seen it yet. So
gotcha. I mean,
I'm sure I will before the actual patch drops.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me. I just don't want to dig deep and find out exactly what's happening. I don't want to know the lines of dialogue. I don't want to know when we come across them, because if you've been playing Legion, it should not come as a surprise that we're running into these characters, because Turalyon's already been spoiled. We've already talked to Turalyon very early on in Legion quest lines dealing with Khadgar. And if you know anything about Turalyon and Illyria, you can just assume where this is heading. We're going to finally meet up with these very famous heroes from Warcraft lore. So seeing the model, it's like, whatever. It's Joce, she looks exactly like she does in Hearthstone. Dead on. Dead on, that's what she looks like. Turalyon, however, surprise, looks pretty dope and nothing like his visions that shows up at the beginning of Legion. Probably because they weren't done designing him yet.
Well, yeah, he was very much because he was like a projection of light. So, I mean, he looked very generic dude human.
Yeah, he just looked like a dude. I mean, it was just a normal human model that was transparent.
Yeah,
they didn't pull out anything crazy for that. But yeah, I don't know. This kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I just don't actively seek it out. I had a feeling Gul'dan was going to die at the end of Nighthold. So when it came and it happened that it's like it was sort of spoiled beforehand, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know that Illidan was going to sneak up behind him and blow him up and still be holding a skull at the end of it, and just comes full circle and I lose my geeky mind. That's great. And that's the kind of stuff I like to try and stay away from. I don't watch cinematics until we complete the raid, when I see it, you know, in time for me. So but yeah, a lot of 7.3 stuff coming out. What I have seen excites the living hell out of me. It looks really sweet. But forget all that, Justin. Let's jump ahead and talk about the insanity that is teases to what might be the next continent we're going to in the next expansion. Have you seen this at least?
Yes. Are you talking about the armor?
Yes. Yeah, the quest armor.
So this very much, it's basically coded the same way that the armor from the pre-expansion releases was in previous patches, so for Legion and Draenor. So when we're talking pre-expansion event, we're talking about the Blasted Lands event for Draenor and the Invasions for Legion, all the gear that you got by completing those, all said blah, 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 quest Draenor, quest Legion. This says quest. Spoilers, guys, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But it's so Kultiris,
yeah. It's all the pieces of armor have Kultiris in the name string, and then on top of that, the artwork of the armor set itself. So this is a set of cloth armor. It's a robe. On the side of the robe is dangling a parchment map, very much akin to when you hit M and you look at your map, and it has that kind of sepia looking tone. It has a map hanging off with a continent we've never seen. It doesn't match any known land mass on the current Azeroth map. And there's barnacles and tentacles all over the freaking robe. So everyone's just assuming this is a map of Kultiris and that it's pointing towards Kultiris possibly being the continent for the next expansion. This is, if you're unfamiliar with it, I'm sure we'll do a proper lore segment on it in the near future, but TLDR on Kultiris, it was an island off of the coast of the Eastern Kingdoms that went missing after the Cataclysm. It was known for housing a large section of the navy of the human kingdom at the time. As a matter of fact, we already did a big lore section on Jaina and how her extremely racist father met his ultimate end. That's where he lived. He was on Kultiris. That's where the navy was that he was the head of. So that's the TLDR on Kultiris, and that would make sense to me. And also it aligns with you and I thinking N'Zoth might be next, because it would be convenient if we were fighting a sea-themed baddie if a maritime-themed island were to resurface.
Yeah, so I mean, I get it, because there's only so much of the world that we haven't explored now. But I feel like, well, I guess we technically didn't. The Tomb of Sargeras got raised, but the Broken Shore, or the Broken Isles were there. They weren't underwater. But I feel like we've raised a lot of things, right? I liked the whole Pandaria was shrouded in mist thing.
We've only raised the tomb. What else was raised?
Is that the only thing? I feel like...
Off the top of my head, that's the only damn thing I can think of. Northrend we just stayed away from until it was like, Lich King's doing his shit again. I guess we got to take some boats north. We just didn't go there.
I guess Tomb is the only thing that we raised.
Northrend, we just didn't go there. Hyjal,
Pandaria was shrouded in mist.
Yeah, Hyjal was just inaccessible as well as the other, continent adjacent zones of Cataclysm. Yeah, Pandaria was purposefully shrouded. They wrote new lore to basically explain why, hey, you missed an entire continent to the south. Yeah.
Then I get Outland and Draenor are both different
planets.
Yeah, planets / timelines. And then, yeah, I guess, is the Goblin starting zone, did that, I don't know.
I forget exactly what happens, but it's basically lost after the events of the leveling experience.
Yeah. Well, then, this is cool.
Yeah.
I think about, I was like, oh, we're raising something else, but now that I actually think about it, I'm like, I don't know why I feel like we've raised stuff.
It also, everything I read about Kultiris didn't say it specifically sank, just that it shifted.
It was lost. Yeah. Interesting.
Kind of like tectonic plates. It just oh, crap, poof, and just out to the west they go. The whole thing just shifts. Yeah, it didn't necessarily, no literature I could find said sink. It said shift.
Okay. Then I'm back on board.
Yeah. So I mean, again, they used to be a supercontinent, and stuff went everywhere after the Well of Eternity exploded. So there's a lot of leeway, I think. With hey, there's a new thing we missed. Maelstrom kind of screws things up when we get in a boat, guys. Sorry, we just found this.
So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to going back to that kind of a naval kind of theme. I want to see what happened. I want to know what the fallout from all of this stuff is. I'm sure that's where Jaina went. Plus, old god corrupty stuff.
Yeah, and we haven't.
I just hope we don't have do you remember the like shipyard table thing in Draenor? Can we please just not do that again? Sending our ships out on missions.
Yeah, I mean it's just followers with a different skin at that point. But yeah, I get you. I get you. I barely did that.
I'm so sick of mission tables and followers and crap.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with it too. Let's just go quest. I just want to go kill things. But the other thing too is I'd be really into that because it was a bastion of the old human kingdom, and we haven't really had a focus on the history of humans in a very long time in World of Warcraft. So I would love to see them kind of tackle like old Lordaeron-esque architecture with their current tech. And also, while we're at it, why don't we give Lordaeron and the Undercity a facelift, please? Thank you.
That would be so good.
Yeah, I'd be very, very into that. Let's make that the new capital. Forget Orgrimmar. We're all forsaken now. My life for the band.
Although, yeah, I don't mind Lordaeron still being ruins, but it would be nice to be ruins with a new skin.
Right, prettier ruins, bigger ruins, something more. I don't know.
Or we can all just hold hands and rebuild it and have sing Kumbaya and have the humans in the new Lordaeron structure above and the Forsaken in the Undercity below.
Get out. Get the hell out. I know I've played both factions and I'm rather fond of many aspects of the Alliance, but you, madam, are done. You're done. Yeah, anyway, so, hey, I'm really glad that this one piece of cloth armor was data mined by Wowhead and sent us down this barnacle-covered rabbit hole. So that's just wonderful. I'd be very down for a naval maritime-themed expansion. That sounds really awesome. And speaking of Wowhead, we have had these for a while, and just with travel and everything, completely kept forgetting to give them away. We have some Wowhead premium codes to give away, courtesy of, Wowhead. So this is going to give you, I believe, 6 months of Wowhead Premium, and we're going to pick some people and give these away. So tweet at us. That is at Faz Podcast, FAZ Podcast, and go ahead and include at Wowhead in your tweet as well, and we'll pick out some winners and dish out some codes. We've got quite a few to give away, so shoot us a tweet. Odds are probably pretty damn good to win these things because so many people don't actually. I'm surprised when we give things away how many people don't actually enter. So, good chance. Go get yourself a Wowhead Premium. And yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing in WoW. Before we move to lore, which we're covering the Druid Class Hall this week, I want to remind you folks.
We're almost done the class halls.
We are almost done with class halls. You know what else we're almost done with?
What are we almost done with, Garrett?
The Embrace the Spoilers Kickstarter. There is 3 days left to go on this. We have funded for our next season, which will cover the new season of Game of Thrones. But there are still stretch goals. We've got our first stretch goal, which we are very close to, which is to cover some of the final movies of the summer. And then the stretch goal after that is make Jocelyn watch Indiana Jones. We'll watch all 3 original Indiana Jones films. We'll do an episode about it. Not to mention we will record ourselves watching those 3 films as a commentary track. It'll probably be funny.
You know you want to hear it.
Yeah, you know you do. You know you do. I might wear a fedora while I do it. It won't matter because it's audio, but still.
Well, prediction. I think this is what's going to happen. We're going to start watching. They're near and dear to your heart, but they're old movies, right? So something's going to happen that is like your fondest childhood memory. And I'm going to go, what the F? This is dumb. And then it's going to be us butting heads for the next 2 hours.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. Yeah. Also, if it's Temple of Doom, I'm most likely going to agree with you. I'm like, yeah, that is dumb. That's dumb too. Yes, that's still dumb. You are correct, Jocelyn. That's also dumb. So, But yeah, check it out if you want to back the Kickstarter, help us push towards those stretch goals. It is bit.ly/embrace-the-spoilers. Go there now. Also, if you haven't subscribed, Embrace the Spoilers feed is already up. So just search for Embrace the Spoilers wherever podcasts can be found and go and subscribe to that. Hope you enjoyed, everyone. Now let's move to the meat of today's episode, the lore segment, which, as I already mentioned, is the Druid Class Hall. Jocelyn, how does this start?
So, as every other class hall, as soon as Dalaran teleports, you are approached by a Druid champion. In this case, it is Hamul Runetotem. He summons the Druid hero to Moonglade, where we learn about the Dreamway, which is a bunch of interconnected areas of the Emerald Dream that allows Druids to pass across vast distances in Azeroth. So Malfurion is preparing to open the Dreamway and needs the help of other Druids like Zentabra and Naralex, as well as the Druid champion themselves. So in case you guys aren't familiar, haven't rolled a Druid or anything else, then these two characters are characters that we've seen in the past, as with many of the Class Hall champions. Zentabra, and as I was reading her story, it made me really, really interested in doing some sort of lore segment on some sort of troll character, because honestly, their Loa stuff is so freaking cool. I get like all kinds of excited about trolls. So I need to, I think, first of all, roll a troll, because I've never actually played a troll. And then, and also we need to do some troll lore coming up soon. Anyways, she is a troll druid trainer who is one of the first troll druids. So she was cut off from the Loa spirits by the voodoo magic of Zalazane until Gonk the Great Hunter reached out to Zentabra through the Emerald Dream instead. So Gonk is one of the Loa who takes the shape of a giant raptor.
It doesn't matter what Gonk does. You just need to know that Gonk has the greatest name in the history of Warcraft characters.
There you go. So he reached out to her through the Emerald Dream instead, because the way that trolls and the Loa work, they basically serve one specific Loa, which is like one wild god. So Loa is what the trolls call the wild gods.
So they're one and the same, right? Like, so what, Cenarius is a Loa?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
So the Loa are basically like the wild gods, and so usually trolls kind of like, they have a much deeper and closer connection because they talk to and like one at a time sort of thing, as opposed to the way that druids generally do it is, you know, connecting to all of nature. So they have these really close connections. So when Zentabra was cut off, then Gonk reached out to her to try to find her and use the Emerald Dream. So this was like one of the first instances of trolls actually seeing and understanding the Emerald Dream. And so Gonk showed them that they could use the Emerald Dream to connect to and serve all of the natural spirits, as opposed to just one-on-one. So this is a whole other lore segment that we can go into, so I'm not going to go into it right now. But basically, the other Loa weren't very happy with Gonk, because they were like, hey, we had like one-on-one servants, dude. What are you doing? And he was just like, get in line and deal with it. Emerald Dream. Trolls are druids now. This is happening. And then Naralex, you guys might remember, is a night elf druid from the Wailing Caverns dungeon. Way back in, that was vanilla, right?
Yes.
There we go. So way back in vanilla, he intended to use the Emerald Dream to restore the Barrens to a lush forest like they once were, but once he connected to the dream, the Emerald Nightmare overwhelmed him. Most of his disciples were driven insane and formed the Druids of the Fang. He was eventually saved by a group of adventurers. Hence dungeon. So he's all awake now. He's just, sorry for doing that whole Emerald Dream nightmare thing. Didn't mean to mess up the Barrens and make the overgrowth and stuff. But while traveling to meet Malfurion, Hamul tells the champion about the arrival of the Legion and how it's thrown the Emerald Dream into unrest, as well as he tells us about the untapped power of the Druids in Val'shara, who have been training in seclusion under Cenarius after the Great Sundering. So literally 10,000 years of training with a demigod. They're going to be pretty powerful, right?
I would hope so.
So Malfurion stays behind to protect the Moonglade after the Dreamway is opened, while the Druid champion Hamul and Remulos, who is the son of Cenarius, head through the portal. When they enter the Dreamway, they discover that the nightmare has corrupted the Emerald Dream even that far in and is blocking the path to Val'sharah. So Val'sharah has been basically cut off from the real world, not only in the actual physical space, but also in the Emerald Dream. Which kind of makes sense of why none of the druids have contacted the druids from Val'sharah before. The pathway to them was cut off. So the druid hero protects Remulos as he clears the way.
I would also like to correct myself and just save us some emails. You reminded me there. Cenarius is not technically, I guess, one of the wild gods. He's a demigod.
He's a demigod, yeah.
The wild gods are characters like Malorn.
Yes.
So.
Who is technically Cenarius' father, as we'll see later.
Yes, yes. A wild god gives birth to a demigod. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, this is a really good place to explain the Emerald Dream and the Emerald Nightmare. Now, we did talk a little bit about both of these all the way back on episode 4, which I had to go look up. It's called The Many Deaths of Xavius. But we talked about Xavius, so we got a little bit into what the Nightmare and the Dream is. But let's take another pit stop here and talk about these things. So the Dream is an ethereal realm of spirits and nature that exists alongside Azeroth, but in a separate realm. It represents what Azeroth would look like without the influence of intelligent beings. So it's all vegetation and growth and natural life.
All natural all the time.
Exactly. The Emerald Dream is free balling constantly. Time and distance does not exist in the Dream, at least not the same way that they do in the physical realm. This allows fast travel and also long life, which makes no sense to me at all. If you're traveling fast, you should be living shorter. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's the Emerald Dream. This is how it works. It is in a constant state of flux. It's always shifting. It's constantly changing woodlands, which were created by the Keeper Freya, and it was to serve as a blueprint for what Azeroth should be. The dragon aspect Ysera, pour one out and get a little tear in your eye, and her dragonflight were charged with the protection of the Dream by the Titans at Freya's urging. And remember, Freya was a construct of the Titans, a child, if you will.
A keeper.
A keeper, yeah. Using the Dream as her guide, Ysera shaped the evolutionary path of the entire world that we know it, the world of Warcraft. The Nightmare was created by a well-meaning druid named Fandral Staghelm. He planted a branch of Nordrassil in Northrend to try and save the native creatures from the corruption of the old gods. But unfortunately, the roots of the tree breached Yogg-Saron's prison, which granted the old gods access to the Emerald Dream. From there, they sowed seeds of corruption throughout, turning the beautiful realm into one of death and decay, now known as the Emerald Nightmare. You also have probably rated it by now if you've been playing in Legion. Malfurion defeated Xavius, the Nightmare Lord, but was only able to push the corruption back to the Rift of Aln and seal it. He could not destroy the Nightmare completely, and knew that one day the war for the Dream would begin. We need to get better about defeating things completely in World of Warcraft, just for the record.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it later because we also talk about Malorn arriving at the Rift of Aln, but basically Malfurion couldn't push the corruption any further back because he saw the true power behind Xavius, the Nightmare Lord, and as we talked about in our Xavius episode, the power behind Xavius is basically N'Zoth. So Malfurion was like, "Get back, you evil!" And evil was like, okay. And then N'Zoth was like, "F you, Malfurion, I'm a beast." And Malfurion was like, "Oh, you're too strong for me."
God,
and ran away.
Would really love it if you just did all the voice acting from now on, Jocelyn, and also wrote the script. F you, Malfurion. And he was like, this is scary. I'll take a nap.
There you go. So back in the Dream Grove, which is the Druid Class Hall, it's just beyond the Dreamway. Remulos and the Druid hero make their way into Val'sharah to the sanctuary. Remulos vouches for the Druid hero with Rensar Greathoof, who then agrees to help the Druid acquire the weapons of old to fight against the Legion. After returning with the weapons, Malfurion gathers the Druids to congratulate their hero, welcoming the hero into the Cenarian Circle as an Archdruid. Malfurion heads south to seek out Cenarius, while the Archdruid leaves to figure out how the corruption of the Nightmare is spreading. Samples of the seeds of corrupted lashers are collected so that Norlex can study them. The seeds grow into more corrupted lashers, so the Archdruid informs Rensar of this development. Rensar believes that the seeds show that the nightmare has found a way into the physical realm of Azeroth, and the Archdruid is sent to contact Malorn with Brol Baremantle. So if you guys aren't familiar with Brol, I feel like he deserves a lore segment all of his own, which is kind of true of, I feel like a lot of the people in the Druid Class Hall seem to have played much, much larger roles just throughout the story of World of Warcraft, as opposed to, say, we haven't covered it yet, but like the Hunter Class Hall. Man, they really dug down to the bottom of the barrel with some of those champions to the point of like actually just making totally new ones because they were like, there aren't any famous hunters, so. But the druids, I mean, there's so many of them that have such crazy fleshed out backstories. They've had key roles in a lot of things all the way back to the Third War, including Brol, who, after losing his daughter in the Third War, he allowed himself to be sold into slavery. He basically just wanted to leave Night Elf society, not have anything to do with anyone, so he essentially sold himself off to the orcs. There he fought as in the gladiator pits alongside Valera Sanguinaire and a human named Logosh, who, spoiler alert, turns out to be Varian Wrynn. So after they escaped, because basically Valera and Logosh were not there of their own accord, and so Brol befriended them and decided to help them escape. So after they escaped, Brol rejoined society, but more along the lines of like with the humans, with Varian, his friend, as opposed to returning to Night Elven society. He helped Varian free his son from Onyxia. He led the battle for Undercity. He aided Malfurion in his fight against the Nightmare, which we talked about sealing the Rift of Uln a little bit earlier. And he also fought against Ragnaros' forces in the Firelands. So Brol is like super decorated war hero, like has been in World of Warcraft and has been like on the forefront of all the events since the beginning. We didn't really see him in Draenor, but that was kind of the only thing. He was present all the way through everything else we've done in World of Warcraft. So you get to go with Brol to try to contact Malorn. Yeah,
basically everything like post-comic, when the comic came out. And the first time I remember seeing him in game was the Wrathgate event, when you go and storm the Undercity. He's hanging outside there with Valera, doing his bear druid thing. But back to contacting Malorn. Malorn's refuge turned out to be crawling with satyrs, and after saving Selendra Gladesong, the shrine's guardian, the Archdruid discovers that the idol needed to contact Malorn has been stolen. So Brawl, Selendra, and the Archdruid track the satyr to Moonclaw Vale. There they confront Calazius. I'm going to go with Calazius. And retrieve the Idol of the Wilds. Brawl and Selendra are both impressed by the bravery of their Archdruid companion and agree to return to the Dream Grove as champions because everyone needs mechanics to get cool people following them in this expansion. To use the idol, the Archdruid needs 4 essences of the wilds, 1 representing each protector of the forest, and by convenience, each spec of a druid. Feral, Guardian, Balance, and Resto. Each essence requires the Archdruid to prove their connections to the wild, and upon completion, a spirit appears to tell the Archdruid where to find each essence.
So this is actually really cool. There's kind of like a stone marking the location of the spirit, and you have to do an ability from each kind of spec, which for druids, they're not as cut and dried as other ones. Like you don't have to actually change to Guardian to have the ability to go into bear form, right? Whereas if I am a survival hunter, I need to change to marksman to use a bow and to use a whole new set of abilities. So they don't actually have to change spec. They just kind of always have access to some parts of each of these 4 essences of the wild, I guess.
It's always been a very unique part of being a druid, and something I was always afraid they were going to lose, because we lost so many other things like stances and presences with like warriors and death knights, and I don't know why I always liked that. I always liked like, oh, the tank's dead. I guess I'm gonna switch to blood presence. I don't have tank gear. Here goes nothing. But it's something I've always really liked about druids, and I hope they never get rid of that.
As someone who tried a druid as her second character, man, it was confusing. I gave up so fast. My druid is still sitting as a ghost because I don't even find it fun to play because it's just so confusing for someone who like hasn't done that play style. I was like, wait, I'm a bear, but now I'm wait, what spec am I in again? How is this working? I need someone to help me druid.
It depends on what spec you're in, because you usually just stay in that form if you want to be good. I mean, you can go into others if you want to do cute things, like switch to cat form real fast and stealth and run and be basically a butthole in PvP. But yeah, usually if you're, tanking, you stay in bear form the whole time and play it like a warrior. Anyways, getting back to it, after collecting the 4 essences, the druid champions are sent out to gather all druids to Nordrossil to help commune with Malorn. The archdruid, along with Hamul and his daughter Bashana, arrive in the Dreamway to find the nightmare has spread, so they cleanse the Dreamway and save all the little creatures there in order to allow the other druids of the Order to get to Nordrossil. The ritual is successful and the druids are able to commune with Malorn, and they shuffle him back into their decks. Anyway, Malorn sensed Shaladrossil's corruption and entered the dream to cleanse the nightmare at its source. But when he arrived at the Rift of Aln, he saw the true power of the nightmare, which he warns will engulf all of Azeroth in a new, twisted reality. Malorn can no longer escape, and he is trapped in the nightmare himself.
So again, we're coming up on the Rift of Aln. He's seeing the true power of the nightmare, which even when we go into the raid, we go to fight against Xavius in the Rift of Aln. And we can't even see what's going on. Basically, where the raid event takes place is a circle of light in darkness, and you can't see. Everything is like shadowed and foggy, and you can't see past where Xavius actually is. So it's kind of cool that they're like still shrouding it all in mystery, but the true power of the nightmare is totally N'Zoth, guys. Spoiler alert, this is yet another pointing of fingers at, old gods are coming, be ready. So anyways, back to the druids. Remulos insists that Malorn must be rescued, so the archdruid reopens a portal in the Dreamway that leads directly into the Rift of Aln. Come on, druids. It would have been so much easier if we could have just taken our raid straight to the Rift of Aln instead of going all the way through all of those other bosses. Come on.
But you wouldn't get to see twisted versions of Azeroth and cities like dangling from vines in the distance.
That is true. It's
pretty rad.
So they reopen this portal using nightmare fragments found on satyr lieutenants. When collecting the nightmare fragments to power the portal, the archdruid comes across a fairy dragon that Garrett, you might be familiar with. Her name is Brightwing, and she's helped to fight back the nightmare.
And she loves murder.
She does love murder. Brightwing requires purified water to replenish her magic, which I thought was really cool because it very much sounded like a throwback to the fountain in Heroes of the Storm. New seeds planted in the Dream Grove to grow her some new flowers, which is a thing. And the Pendant of Starlight she can use to repair the grove. After you help Brightwing, she agrees to join the Druid Order and fight against the Legion as a champion of the Archdruid. The Archdruid and 4 champions head into the Rift of Aln, but the Archdruid can only choose one to fight by their side. So you have the choice of Brawl, who will tank for you, Mayloon, who will be ranged DPS, Zentabra, who will be melee DPS, or Selendra, who will heal you. So I thought this was really cool, because I don't think that we've ever had this kind of a choice before in the champion order halls, have we?
I'm sorry, what?
The other champions order halls, like when you go into your final fight, you generally have some of your other champions at your side, but you don't get to actually choose the role that you want them to fill.
I didn't even, towards the end, I don't remember choosing any of my dudes to do anything special outside of, just coming on quests with me. Right.
So basically, this is like you go into this end boss fight of your order hall campaign, and you get to say like, all right, I'm going to be the bear, so I'm going to take Selendra, you resto me, or I'm going to be the healer, so I need a tank or a DPS or whatever. Or you could just go, all right, I'm going to range DPS, Zentabra, you're going to melee DPS, and we're just going to melt everything. Screw healing and tanking.
Yeah, that's I'm trying to.
So you kind of get to make your own little mini comp.
I'm trying to even
based on whatever spec you like to play.
I'm even trying to think about what the equivalent is on the Death Knight side. I don't think there's anything real. I mean, there's storylines in all of these about getting your group together to go fight, but I don't think you ever make any type of decision about who even comes with you or any mechanic of that nature.
Yeah, so all of the heroes like go with you. It's just who sticks with you as like a follower to fight with you. So the Archdruid and their companion, whoever you chose, head into Malorne's Nightmare, which is the War of the Ancients, where many of the wild gods fell. To free Malorne, the Druids have to win the War of the Ancients by defeating foes, reviving allies, and freeing innocents. Many of the wild gods can actually be seen in Malorne's Nightmare, and this is really cool because this is like book content. So all of this stuff comes from the War of the Ancients trilogy. It's not actually ever seen in game. We've gone to the War of the Ancients previously through questing in High Mountain, and also actually I think in Val'sharah, because I think at some point we go to the War of the Ancients on the like Brayden's Brook, Jared Shadow Song stuff. I think there's a scene in the War of the Ancients.
Yes. You're thinking of the Illidan quest line that everyone goes on,
yes.
and you're put into the shoes of Illidan to defend Brayden's Brook.
Right. So you're right. So the Illidan quest line, as well as you get to become Huln High Mountain in High Mountain.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other one. That's the other one that seems like to me like obviously War of the Ancients, like because I didn't know Blackrock Hold was a thing. Like when I think of War of the Ancients, I think druids in forests fighting demons, and that's exactly what you do. Who's the Tauren character you take control of again?
Huln, High Mountain.
Huln, yeah, okay. So him. But then the Illidan one all takes place in Blackrock Hold, but again, still part of the War of the Ancients.
Yeah, and there's also a world quest there's like a big lore tree quest giver in Val'sharah who sends you back, who quote unquote sends you back, basically tells you the story of the War of the Ancients, and you get to be, I think I've been a Dryad, and I feel like I've been something else.
I don't think I've done that. I don't remember ever being a Dryad.
No? Well, you get to be something different, or who you end up playing is kind of random every time. So for the longest time, I thought you could only be a Dryad until I randomly got to be I think a tree. Okay. But anyways, there is a world quest as well that takes you to the War of the Ancients. But this is it's not the whole entire battlefield, but this is like the big, huge battle right before all the dragons show up, and there's like the corruption of Deathwing and the shattering of the blue dragonflight and all that cool stuff. This is when it's just like the denizens of Azeroth versus the demons of the Burning Legion. Like literally picture two sides of a battle and everyone just going bam into the middle.
So every fantasy movie ever.
Exactly. So what happened in this big battle is basically the wild gods answered the call. So many of these wild gods went charging in ahead of the lines of everyone else. They were trying to protect the Night Elf druids and everything else. They wanted to very much be the vanguard, which meant that although they were super powerful, they eventually fought their final battles and just fell to overwhelming numbers because the Legion just kept coming. And so you actually, in the Druid Order Hall, you get to see, if you run around enough, because you don't have to, but you can actually explore the battle in the War of the Ancients, and you can see these wild gods having their final battles. So you can see Agamagnon, you can see Ashmane, you can see Cenarius, you can see Ursoc and Ursol and Aviana, all in their final battles right before they fell. Because again, this is, Malorne's Nightmare. These are all his other wild gods, his friends and his companions. Not to mention Malorne himself perished in the War of the Ancients. So this makes a lot of sense as to why this would be his nightmare. So the Archdruid and his companion discover Malorne as he enters the battlefield to defend his son Cenarius, who was about to be overcome, by confronting Archimonde himself. And as I mentioned, during the War of the Ancients, Malorne was slain. Archimonde was his killer after a tremendous battle, so that's why it's his nightmare. So the Archdruid and his companion intervene, slaying Archimonde before he can kill Malorne, freeing the demigod from his prison. It's really important to say here, this doesn't change the events of the War of the Ancients, but not dying to Archimonde is enough to break Malorne out of the spell of the nightmare, essentially.
Right. It sounds to me like he's caught up in a prison of his own mind, basically. It's
exactly,
just replaying the events of his worst memory over and over again. Yeah.
So by killing Archimonde, then Malorne is freed. Malorne is very thankful and teleports everyone back to the dream Dream Grove, not Dreamway, Dream Grove. But he warns that Xavius still lives and has to be defeated to protect Azeroth from the nightmare. And that's the end of the Druid Class Hall.
They had one of the most unique ones, which I would expect they would, knowing that, Val Shara is a zone.
Exactly.
And Emerald
they
Nightmares
did. They had a very unique one. They had a really well fleshed out one. I mean, obviously, they've all had the true to the class feeling, but this one felt that much more epic, and I think it's because it actually portrays the War of the Ancients and the fall of the Wild Gods that just kind of was the super awesome cap on this story. We still have, I think, the Hunter Class Hall and one other one to cover, and after hearing about the Druid one, I was kind of like, man, I was pretty happy with the way my Hunter Class Hall went, but after seeing all the other ones, I was like, oh, we kind of got the short end of the stick here.
Well, at least you didn't go to Niskara, or did you?
I don't believe we did.
Okay,
it was a
right.
long time ago, but I don't believe we did.
Yeah.
But like our final boss was like, we went to Violet Hold. Like they had the whole War of the Ancients built for them. We went to Violet Hold.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I think so far, I think Druid, Rogue, and Death Knight might be the most unique in my mind.
Yeah, Demon Hunters were
Warrior.
really good too, except for Demon Hunter. Well, Demon Hunters went to Niskara, but kind of for different reasons.
Yeah.
Same with I think Paladin and Priest were really interesting because they were so intertwined, and I like the idea of the two servants of the light working together. Even though again it did include a side trip to Niskara, but still it was I think Hunter and have we? Yeah, we've done monks. No, we haven't done monks.
We haven't done monks. Monks are still
Hunters and monks are the two that are left. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. And actually, I'll change my answer. I think Warrior's right up there with Druid because it's so tied into everything happening with. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Odin.
Halls of Valor, Odin.
Okay.
And what's the zone that I can't? Stormheim. Thank you. They're so tied up into that it makes it feel quite unique because it's not as centralized around. We gotta get to Niskara and kick some butt.
Yeah.
There's all this Halls of Valor thing. So the ones that are kind of tie into raids seem to be kind of setting themselves apart from the other class halls to me, which I have done.
I agree.
None of.
I'm working on the monk one right now because my monk was kind of sitting there unused, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna poke my way through this, and I've got to say, so far, and it might be because it kind of takes place in Pandaria, so it's like newer locations and newer continents and stuff. But the kind of fall of the temple and establishing the new temple on the Wandering Isle was really, really cool and really well done.
Well, I'll have to check it out.
We'll get there in a couple of weeks. Or,
Yeah.
well, I guess, yeah. 3 weeks from
Monk
now, we'll do either Hunters or Monks.
Monk is at the, for whatever reason, at the very bottom of my interest level. I've just no interest in being a monk. I don't know why. It's not for me.
I like being a big, fat, bouncy panda.
Well, yeah, I don't. I don't even like playing Shannon Heroes.
There you go.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with some emails. You can send your emails to fazpodcast. That is fazpodcast@gmail.com. Alex writes in and says, well met, champions. So we found out Jaina rage quit the Legion to become a Death Knight in Hearthstone. ... But seriously, I think it's interesting they chose Jaina to narrate a Northrend/Ice Crown themed cinematic instead of Arthas or Bolvar. Now, I certainly don't think she's going to become a Death Knight battle mage like she was portrayed in the cinematic, but there are some little clues that make me think the old god-corrupted Jaina theory might be true. During the course of the cinematic, present-day Jaina, after the events of Theramore, has her white hair with a gold streak, but it progresses to a purpley, voidy, old goddess streak in her hair. In the final scene of her being a Lich Queen battle mage badass, the blonde streak in her hair is gone and is replaced with a void purple streak. I would argue not replaced. It was there. It was in the same place. The blonde is just now gone completely. So it's purple.
Well, yeah,
and white.
that's what he means. Yeah.
Yeah. Blizzard loves to do shit like this, and it would not surprise me at all if the reason why they chose Jaina to narrate this cinematic was to throw in little clues to her being consumed by the whispers of the old gods and the madness and power of the void. The purple streak shows up in her hair when she says, quote, "There is a price to be paid for such a gift." What gift did she accept? Was it the power of the void, and because of that, the purple streak shows up in her hair as a result? Quote, "Power alone is not to be feared. Fear instead those who wield it." AKA, Jaina has embraced the power of the void, and that is terrifying, especially since she's arguably the most powerful mage to live since Egwene, and her staff is essentially a Titan artifact infused with the power of the Thunder King from back in Mists of Pandaria. Finally, let's go back to whispers from Ignoth. I've never been able to pronounce that.
Il'gynoth. He's a boss in the Emerald Nightmare.
Oh, then straight up missing a letter here. Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it. Theramore literally became a crater, and that void in her heart has been filled by the whispers of N'Zoth. So is this cinematic one giant hit at Jaina succumbing to the void, or did the Hearthstone team think that portraying Jaina as a Lich King battle mage badass would make the cinematic awesome as hell, and everything I pointed out is just a coincidence? Either way, it was an awesome cinematic, and I'd love to hear what both of you think about my tinfoil hat theory. Suffer well, champions. It's just badass. I'm sorry to point out. I mean, the gift she accepted was that of the power of Arthas and being a Death Knight, because they're all Death Knights. They pointed out they're a Death Knight. It has nothing to do with old gods.
Yeah, so I think because I've seen this kind of idea, theory, everything from the Warcraft community after they saw the Hearthstone cinematic. And I think that basically what I wanted to point out, what we need to point out, is the Hearthstone team, which if you are a Warcraft fan, you may not be familiar with the way that the Hearthstone team works. But they've said many times over that basically they sometimes collaborate with the Warcraft team in that they say, like, hey, we're going to put a N'Zoth card in. Do you guys care what he looks like? Or, you know, very much say, like, okay, we're working on this as our next expansion. You know, is that cool? What do you guys think? Do you have anything to add or anything we shouldn't do? But they don't necessarily full on collaborate. Like, the reason that Hearthstone can do all the cool things that Hearthstone does is because it exists in a kind of totally other timeline. Nothing they do is canon. I mean, we had Mean Streets of Gadgetzan that everybody wanted as canon, but it's not. So they basically exist in this universe of what if. Like, we had one night at Karazhan where Medivh threw a disco party. Like, this is very much a what if we went to battle the Lich King, and instead of Tyrion actually coming and saving us all, was it Tyrion?
Yes.
Yes, okay, sorry. Instead of Tyrion coming and saving us all, what if he failed? What if we all died? What if all of our champions, Jaina and Garrosh and all became Death Knights? So that's where the Hearthstone story is going. It has nothing to do with the World of Warcraft, sadly. But you are 100% bang on with the Il'gynoth quote, and that is actually from World of Warcraft. And I think, yes, Jaina is, first of all, scary. Second of all, going to be a badass. Third of all, I really hope they make her hair purple because, love. But unfortunately, the Hearthstone cinematic doesn't actually have anything to do with the World of Warcraft. Sad face.
Yep, exactly. And like it's timeline, nothing makes sense. So you just need to throw it out. The only reason that it's showing post Theramore Jaina is because that's the art that they use for her in Hearthstone. And if you're going to show Jaina in a Hearthstone cinematic, she has to look like Hearthstone Jaina. Timelines be damned. By the way, Hearthstone's subtitle, since Heroes of Warcraft is gone, should be Timelines be damned.
I like Ogre22 in the chat room. It's just Hearthstone equals alternative Warcraft facts.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's rad as hell. Everything happening with Knights of the Frozen Throne, I love it. And also, let's just go down the line of other things that don't make sense. Garrosh didn't have that armor at the time. He was not the war chief. He did not go up and cut the tusks off of his father's trophy that he did not earn and didn't have the right to wear, but he's wearing them in the art for this. Uther was dead. Gul'dan was dead. There are dead people here, and I don't mean resurrected as Death Knights. They were dead. They shouldn't have been there.
Very true.
So this is all just fun. Also, Thrall didn't have that outfit then, or did he?
Yeah.
He didn't know. He didn't get that till Cataclysm.
Yeah, so it's all very much like it's whimsical, it's fun, it's a what if they weren't dead and went to fight Arthas, blah 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 blah. That's what makes Hearthstone so fun, is because they have this leeway, because they aren't canon, they don't have anything to do with the World of Warcraft. It's what makes Hearthstone able to do these kind of things. So in terms of choosing Jaina to narrate Northrend, or to narrate the Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion cinematic, I think they did that just because Jaina is a character that people are familiar with. I think if they went with Arthas or Bolvar, like if you aren't a fan of World of Warcraft, which a lot of Hearthstone players are not, then you would have no idea who this Lich King character was. By making Jaina central to the cinematic, the mage, and so therefore Jaina is actually the first character that you really get to play when you go into Hearthstone. So everyone is familiar with Jaina. So I think that's why they chose her, although obviously Jaina's story is very kind of interconnected to, married to Arthas' story. So it makes sense to have her do it, but it makes sense just from a player experience in Hearthstone to go with the character that you see as soon as you log in, and that's the first character you unlock, and that's the first class you get to play. So I think that's why they did it. I think it was a good choice for either lore reasons or for, Hearthstone player experience reasons, but yeah, I think that's why they did it. I don't think it has any deeper meaning. And in case you guys are TAC listeners, Ben Bro did actually confirm that Arthas is the Lich King in Knights of the Frozen Throne. So don't worry, Garrett.
I mean, your eyeballs should have confirmed it if you looked at any of the images of the Lich King from Knights of the Frozen Throne, because it's Arthas.
Yes.
There's no question. And also, but
it has been 100% confirmed. They're not going to do any crazy switcheroos and anything. It's Arthas, don't worry.
Yeah. And then also, I think someone tweeted at me, it's like, oh, Jaina's holding Frostmourne in that art. That is not even close to Frostmourne. Oh my god, it's not Frostmourne. Death Knights wield
there
rune blades.
There are many rune blades that aren't actually Frostmourne.
Yes. Oh my god. Oh, nerd rage. Nerd rage, not Frostmourne. Not even close. Frostmourne, by the way, in the background of one of the pieces of the key art. Like in the sky.
But not in Jaina's hand.
The sky is Frostmourne in that piece of art, not whatever the hell Jaina is wielding. All right, final email, Joce.
This one came to us anonymously. It says, hi, Garrett and Joce, longtime listener of your various podcasts here. I have a WoW-related question I'd love your opinion on. We're a pretty chill progression guild, and the core 10 or so people have been raiding together since Mists of Pandaria. We target some mythic progression each tier, but have no aspirations to obtain cutting-edge achievements. So for those of you who don't know, cutting-edge achievements are the ones when you kill the mythic boss before the release of the next raid tier. We recently recruited this awesome person who's been super nice and helpful. He's always online helping people and filling up the guild bank with raid consumables. He has also been helping with recruitment, as we don't always have the full 20 to do mythic content, and is generally a delight to have in Discord. The issue is he's a terrible raider. Despite his gear, his numbers are very low, and we've tried our best to help him with log reviews, videos, etc. Nothing seems to be working. As one of the officers in the guild, I can see that having him in raid is detrimental to our progress as a raid team, and I've already had a few raiders voice their concern about him to me privately. This is also complicated by the fact that his boyfriend is one of our best raiders. I fear that benching him might cause both of them to quit the guild, and losing them would really suck as they've become a big part of our guild. What should we do? Thanks for the help. So this is a really good question, and it kind of comes down to just your leadership of a team. And I think saying we're a pretty chill progression guild is like the number one thing that jumped out at me is like, those two things don't really go together. Either you're a pretty chill guild and you're not worried about progression, or you're a progression-oriented guild and you want to get the content done. So, I mean, you kind of have to decide what it is that you want your raid team to do first and foremost. Are you pretty chill and you're cool with this guy having crappy numbers, or are you progression oriented, and the fact that you might be banging your head against a boss because of this one guy for weeks on end, is that making you really upset and angry and not enjoying your WoW experience? So I think possibly you as a raid leader and the guild as a whole needs to actually sit down and decide, like, what are your actual goals? What do you want to do? And how does everyone fit into that vision?
I left a guild over something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I straight up, that's how I became Horde. I was raiding as a hunter for a little while, learned how to tank,
wanted to try my hand at tanking a raid, so I started leading one of the side raids. And there was this person in our guild. This is the very first guild I was in. She may even still be there for all I know. Who just helped out as much as they could. Was always there to raid and was awful, just abysmally awful at raiding. Like we were doing X at the time, could not do the Hagen dance. And I distinctly remember at one point having a discussion with this raider as a group, like, you need to stop keyboard turning or you will die in the Hagen dance. Just turn with your mouse, move with the keyboard, maneuver with the mouse. And this person refused to do that, and like just refused, absolutely refused. Died, had to 9-man Hagen to get through.
Right, because that would have been back before all the flex stuff came in, right? So you had a very specific number, and the raid was tuned to a very specific number of raiders.
Yep, exactly. And so basically, when I was like, oh, I want to start trying to tank. All right, well, we don't have room for a warrior. You want to start a side raid? Sure. And that person immediately just got shifted to my raid. It's like, okay, you get the leftovers. Here's this person that we refuse to sit down and have a conversation with. Instead, we're just going to pawn this raider off on the newest raid team. And that's when I went, you know what? I'm switching the horde. So I left the raid. Haven't been back since. And really what this boils down to is lessons learned. I think this is a failure to set expectations from the get-go. If you explained if you all came to the agreement when you started the raid that, hey, you need to pull your weight if you want to stay in the raid, it's it's a privilege. But
even then, I think you have to be very specific with what pulling your weight means, because like our writer wrote in and said, like, he gives us lots of consumables. He's always online. He's doing recruitment. Like, he is contributing in every way he possibly can outside of actual raid night. And when it comes to actual raid night, he is just failing to execute his character. So I'm sure from his point of view, he's doing everything he possibly can to contribute. And from the rest of the raid's point of view, he's not contributing enough, because really what they want is somebody who is super progression-minded and can execute their character. They would rather have a super badass player who doesn't give them any kind of recruitment or raid consumables or any of the other stuff. They want a badass player. So they're kind of, they both view contributing to the raid in different ways, and that's the problem. That's what needs to be communicated. So I feel like communication here is key, and you just need to say to them, like, look, if you need to, run Mythic Pluses, run LFRs, like, practice the hell out of your character instead of, farming herbs and giving us consumables and recruiting and everything else. Like, focus on your character as opposed to focusing on all these other things in game. That's what we need you to do. I think that's the message that needs to be communicated to him.
Yeah. If everyone's on the same page, you need to have a talk. And if you're gonna have that talk, you need to be ready to lay down an ultimatum. I don't know. And I'm not even 100% sure if it comes down to ultimatums, because I feel like another thing that you could do, if you really want to keep this guy in, and if you think that, you might lose 2 raiders over this, and one of your best raiders is, kind of the other side of that coin, then, you need to potentially help him out and work with him. And instead of just saying, like, the bar is up here, you're down here, get good, I think what you need to do maybe is try to work with him and give him some goals and say, like, okay, well, next week we want to see. In this writer's defense, they've already said that they've, pulled logs and talked about videos with this person, and that. And they're just... Well,
that's true, but I mean, like, you can look at numbers and you can watch raid videos, but if you're not giving someone any kind of stepped goals to actually achieve, to say, like, okay, look, you are dying every time to this mechanic. Like, next week, see if you can make it to phase 3. You're dying in phase 1. Next week, make it to phase 3. Like, that is like a clear goal. It's an improvement. You're going to be helping your raid, doing whatever your role is for a whole extra phase, because you're going to get all the way through phase 2. Like, that's a measurable goal that you can see the improvement on. Either they do it or they don't. And then if they don't, then you can say, all right, well, what was the problem? Did it work? Did it not work? just giving like little chunks of measurable goals is sometimes easier for someone than just saying like, okay, you're always dying in phase 1. You suck. Your DPS is terrible. Like, just get better, like get up to everyone else's level. Like, that's not really helpful because there's so many different moving parts of that equation, right? There's your knowledge of your class. There's your knowledge of the fights, like just all of this kind of stuff comes together in a way that makes it difficult to know what to focus on. So if you give this player something to focus on, then they're going to be able to say, okay, yes, I made it to phase 3 instead of dying in phase 1. I feel better about myself now. I feel like I'm getting better. The group's probably going to feel better. And, you can move forward from there and then say, okay, next time, try not to die. And then, all right, you made it through the whole fight. Now let's look at, when we have a whole fight's worth of data, what's your DPS like? Okay, well, try this add-on and see if you can't get that from, 250 up to 300. And, do these little incremental goals if you really want to work with this person. If you don't want to put the time in, if you'd rather just recruit for probably 2 more people, have the conversation, kick them from the raid, and go recruit 2 new people. But if, like you said, this guy is, helps you out in every other part of running your guild, he's a delight to have in Discord, finding good personalities is really difficult. So if these 2 raiders fit your personality of your guild and your raid team really, really well, you might want to work with them and help them out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's social, and it's going to be
This is totally a social question.
Right. Everyone's going to be different, and everyone on the raid team might not agree. I am very much of the mind of, I've already spent a good portion of my life working jobs with people who don't give as much of a shit as I do, and I don't want that in my game as well. I come to, like, my favorite thing to do in WoW is raid. At this point in my life, it's very hard for me to find the time to do that. I am actually bringing the raid down, in my opinion. I would like to get better. But back when all I played was WoW, I lived for the raid. And when I got in, and that one person was causing us to not progress, to not actually be successful at the one reason I show up to play this game, it just started to feel like a job. And that's when I just left. And
well, that's the flip side of the coin, right? You don't want to lose the other raiders on your team who are taking it very seriously and who are focused on progression. I think this brings us back to the beginning of our discussion where we were saying you need to figure out as a raid leader what the point of your guild is. Are you a pretty chill guild or are you a progression guild? And you have to make sure that everyone else in your guild and on your raid team is on that same page.
Not even guild specifically. I think it's just raid group specifically. Your guild.
Well, it sounds like from the email that this is the whole guild is the raid team. Like it's not like from someone in AIE. Like this is very much like we made a guild which is our raid team.
Yeah, but I don't know. Even small guilds can have 2 to 3 raid teams. So
yeah.
I think it's just you need to figure out what the goal of your raid is. What your raid group is.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because if it's progression, then you do need to sit down and have a talk with this person and say, listen, we'll work with you, but if you don't get up to snuff, you just aren't going to be able to raid with us anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, so you have to make sure that whatever decision you make, whether it's that you guys want to chill down a little bit or if you guys want to ramp up your progression and be a little bit more hardcore, wherever that decision lies, you have to make sure that the whole team is on board with that decision. And so maybe even before you have your conversations with the guy you think is pulling your team down, you need to have a kind of raid team wide discussion publicly. You say you have a Discord, whatever the public Discord chat channel is, have a talk and be like, all right, guys, look, we're bashing our heads against this boss. We're not progressing. Do we want to take it a little bit less seriously or do we want to actually take it really seriously? And whatever you decide, you have to make sure that the bulk of your raid is on board with that.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer in my opinion. Oh,
no, not at all. Like you play WoW however you have fun.
While I personally am of screw them, kick them from the team because that's the head space I'm in. I don't want to show up and waste 3 hours. Yeah. Not everyone is like that. I have had many raid groups decide we just want to hang out while raiding. Mm-hmm. I would rather raid and hang out be the secondary thing.
Well, and I think, yeah, you and I have very similar mindsets when it comes to raiding, because I used to raid with a team, and I love each and every member of that team, but they were very much like, we will bring, you know, friends and family along. Like, we don't care if they have 750 gear and an 850 raid. Like, we just want to hang out. We don't care if we wipe. And it was fun at first while I was learning to raid, but I learned very quickly I'm too competitive for that. Mm-hmm. I want to progress. I want to play heroic content. I want to move on. And, you know, it wasn't working for me in the other raid. And I still join them every once in a while whenever my schedule allows for it. And it's super fun because then I have a chill experience. I can hang out in content I've already cleared, and I can hang out with my friends, and that's great, but I don't want that to be my main raid experience. I love Get Your Crit Together because it's very much like progression, push, hard, get good, like go, 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 and everyone is on that same page. That's, you know, we're very clear in our recruitment, like we are here for progression. We are here to gear up. We're here to move on. We are not here for transmog. We are not here for, you know, like, I don't want to say we're not here for fun because everyone that we've recruited has a similar mindset, so progression and working hard is the fun.
Right, that's the
So,
thing.
yeah.
That's the thing, right? Like, there's no right or wrong answer, but there is a right answer for you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
The right answer for me is I want to progress, or I'm just not going to raid.
Yeah.
And it's not to say, like, if we wipe like 15 times, I'm out, I'm done, I quit and go home. Like,
Well, but wiping feels better when you're playing with a team that you know everyone is contributing equally and everyone is trying really hard.
Right.
And if you feel like someone isn't, then that's when wiping becomes frustrating.
Right, exactly. So, like, when someone else's numbers, like I said, I'm currently in that position, is not up to snuff with everyone else's, it can get rough. So.
Oh yeah, you're on the bubble, Garrett. Don't even get it twisted.
I know, but I'm on the bubble with Hakito, so it's good. It's all good.
I am not saying anything about Hakito
You're on a
ever,
DK
never
bubble
again.
I've never seen anyone take so much sick pleasure in throwing someone, in reusing someone's words.
Oh my god.
I love it. Hakito, you're my jam, dude. You're my jam.
Hakito, I'm sorry, I love you.
Even though he's been
that
giving
one
me...
comment has bitten me in the ass so many times, and the ridiculous thing is I meant to burn you for not showing up, and it just turned into a burn on Hakito, and I didn't mean it that way.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you for your emails, everyone. fazpodcast@gmail.com. Send your emails there. Wish me luck to get any damn gear out of the new raid. I don't know what's going on. And if you're interested in Embrace the Spoilers, check out bit.ly/Embrace the Spoilers. There's 3 days left on that Kickstarter. Check it out. Joce, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joce Plays. You can find pretty much everything I do over at amove.tv, except for Slaying Demons. If you guys are into kind of a self-helpy kind of a podcast, it's myself and Jules and Nevermore talking about what's going on with us every other week. So we record on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. That's over on twitch.tv/Joce Plays.
Awesome. Folks, you can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art. Every podcast I do can be found at amove.tv. Go and subscribe to Embrace the Spoilers. Check it out. And we'll see you next time. Good luck and have fun, everyone.